slideshow. Maggie?
Hello, everybody. All right, so throughout today's slideshow, you will find that we will go over and touch on some of the common application errors that we have found come through on applications. So we'll just touch on those briefly and then we'll go into them in a little bit more detail. But those things are going to be your bond that is submitted with your application, the personnel that are included in the application, and your AZCC status, background checks, valid and legible IDs, and that's going to be for everybody on the application, and the testing information. So I want to direct your attention first to our applying for a license checklist. After this seminar, once you are ready to go back to our website, the first thing you're going to want to go to is our applying for a license checklist. This is going to walk you through the step-by-step instructions that we will go through today, that will cover everything you need to be able to then submit your completed application to us. All right, so first thing you're going to need to determine is who is the applicant. So if you are going to be applying as a sole proprietorship or a partnership, then your applicant is going to be the names as it matches on your government ID. If you are applying as a corporation or an LLC, you will need to register your entity with Arizona Corporation Commission, and then you will apply with your entity name exactly as it matches at Arizona Corporation Commission. Your license can have a DBA. You can contract under that DBA. That DBA needs to be included both in your application and on your bond. So on the application, it's going to be in the first page of your application, and then it also needs to be included under the principal name on your bond. We do recommend that you register your DBA with the Secretary of State, but it is not required. Once you know how you are going to apply, next you need to determine which license classification you are going to be applying for. We do have a number of license classifications, everything ranging from a general commercial to specialty contractors, such as commercial or residential electrical, roofing, plumbing, and such. I would suggest that you visit our website and you go to the license classifications page. And from there, you will get an idea. It will give you a description of each of the classifications, and you can get an idea for which classification best fits your scope of work. If you are uncertain of which classification you should apply for, or maybe your scope of work can be covered under multiple classifications, then you can submit to us what is called a scope determination request. And that scope determination request will be reviewed by the licensing department, and then we will issue you the official determination of what classification best fits the work that you will be doing. So once you have determined your classification, your qualifying party is going to need to provide the following items. Your qualifying party is the individual who can either be an owner or a regularly employed employee, but they are the ones who have the experience and will be taking your exams as well. So the items we need from your qualifying party, we're going to need their date of birth, social security, in a valid and legible driver's license or government ID. We are looking for contact information. So that's going to include a good mailing address, email, and phone number, a background check. On the applying for a license checklist, you will find that there is a link to use to get you to the background check. So please use only that link. There's also a section under our website that you can go to as well. The qualifying party will also be required to take and pass the Arizona Statutes and Rules exam. And if the classification requires it, they will also have to take and pass the trade exam. We'll go over those exam items a little bit further into this presentation. Your qualifying party is also going to need to attest to having either that hands-on supervisory or educational experience. They will be required to submit the dates of experience, as well as there is certain requirements for each classification. So a lot of our classifications, you do have to have 4 years of experience. Some is only 2. Some, if you take a trade exam, you don't have to attest to the experience, but each classification can potentially be different as far as the requirements go. All right, so your qualifying party, if the qualifying party is going to be submitting a waiver, that would be a waiver to waive possibly their statutes and rules exam, their trade exam, and even their experience. So for in-state applicants, that would be somebody who is listed on an Arizona license. You can waive the statutes and rules exam if the qualifying party was named on an active Arizona license within the past 5 years. Those same in-state applicants can waive the trade exam if the qualifying party was named on an active Arizona license of the same classification within the last 5 years. So the great thing about our new portal that we have implemented is the portal should waive and recognize if the qualifying party was previously on an Arizona license and has the ability to waive. So that is one of those awesome things about using our new portal, is it takes all that extra work out of there for you. So again, those are going to be in-state applicants, meaning the qualifying party was listed on an Arizona license. Out-of-state applicants. So many of you may have a license in another state. So if you have a license in another state, you cannot waive the statutes and rules exam. That exam is specific to Arizona. So if you have never been on an Arizona license, then you will have to take that. However, the trade exam can potentially be waived. There are some verifying factors that we need to be able to verify on our end in regards to your license and the license waiving capability. So was the qualifying party named on an active license within the last 5 years that meets our waiver requirement? So we are looking to see, is the scope of work comparable? Is the qualifying party listed in the same capacity? Different states may call their qualifying party different things. Are there any unresolved complaints still listed on the license? And that is all stuff that we have to be able to verify with that out-of-state licensing board or agency. Your out-of-state license information should be provided at the time of your application. So if you are submitting it through the portal, there it will give you a required field if you're opting to waive with an out-of-state license, and you will need to provide us with your out-of-state license information. If you are submitting by mail or in person, you can include that out-of-state waiver form as well. All right, so your qualifying party is going to be the individual who is going to take your statutes and rules and trade exam. Now, keep in mind that is going to be the same person. Different people cannot take different exams. So our statutes and rules exam is going to be a training course pertaining to our Arizona statutes and rules. This is an online self-paced course. The cost for this is $54. All of the materials that you will need are going to be included. There is a downloadable statutes and rules book available for free. But you do need to make sure, again, referring back to that applying for a license checklist, you'll want to make sure to use that link to get you to the correct course. For your trade exam, now your trade exams are going to be based on the specific trade for which you are applying for. These are going to be a little bit different, whereas they are offered online and also in person. But these are a proctored exam, meaning they are timed and somebody is there watching you take the exam. And if you're doing it online, you have to make sure that you have a working camera. You'll have to show them the room you're in and such. The cost for the trade exam is going to be $66. And then if you are going to be taking the solar, that's an additional $40. Study material for the trade exams is going to be a little bit different. Those do have to be purchased. And we will go over the candidate information bulletin shortly that will give you an outline of what your trade exam specifically will look like. Keep in mind, if you do not pass the trade exam the first time, there is a 30-day waiting period in which you must wait to retake the exam. All right, so this is our candidate information bulletin. So this information can also be found on our website under that applying for a license and pass examinations. And what the candidate information bulletin does is it gives you an outline of your exam. It's going to be the trade specific exam. So the example you can see here is we have it, the A general engineering classification. So it's going to give you a breakdown of the questions. It's going to give you reference items that you may use. There will be a list of reference materials that you would have to purchase. Some of them are allowed in your exam, some of them are not. So you will want to make sure that you review that list carefully, because if you take your book in there that's not allowed, then they will end your exam. So make sure to look at that reference list and see what items you can take in the exam with you. All right, so we've gone over what your qualifying party is going to need to provide. The next thing we're going to go over is who else will be included in your application and what do they need to provide us. So for an LLC, we are looking for any owners of 25% or more. If you are looking at AZCC, we are looking for any members or managers also included on there. For a corporation, we're also looking for those owners of 25% or more. And then looking at AZCC, that's going to be any officers and directors. So each of those individuals is going to need to be included on the application itself. They will also need to provide a valid and legible ID, that important contact information, phone number, email, and a mailing address, their ownership percentage, their title, and then a background check that has been completed within 90 days. All right, so background checks are another one of our big top 5 errors that we see in new applications. So the big thing that we wanted to touch on these is that each person must submit a completed background check receipt. So going back to that applying for a license checklist, this is going to be one of the first things you want to do, is go in and get that background check started, because when you submit your application, you will need a completed background check receipt. We do review those, and we are looking that it has been completed within 90 days from when you submitted your application. It must be completed by each person that is going to be listed on the application. So every single person. The contact info for the background check company is listed here. And then, like I said, there is also a link to that background check website from our applying for a license checklist. All right, we do require that anybody who has employees would need to provide us with workers' compensation. So that is, we are looking for your policy and the company that is issuing the policy. There are a few exemptions to this. That would be a single member, 100% owned entity with no employees, or a two-member 50-50% ownership company with no employees. Those would be the two exemptions that we would have for that. If you have any questions regarding workers' comp, or unsure if you would be required to have workers' comp, you would want to contact the Industrial Commission of Arizona. And we do have some entities that apply, and they are considered a tiered entity. So that is an entity, an LLC or a corporation that is owned by another entity. So if you are a tiered entity, you will need to submit your own tiered entity organizational chart. It can look similar to this one, but it will be uploaded either on the portal or mailed in with your application. Some key points to the organizational charts is we do need the attestation on there, that no person or entity other than those listed owns 25% or more. The chart needs to be signed by an authorized representative who will be listed on the application. Your chart should end in people. If your organizational chart does not end in people, like it is an employee stock owned company, then we would just need an additional statement explaining that on there. Keep in mind, we also will need the addresses of any of the entities or individuals listed on this chart as well. All right, your license application will also need to include the bond for your license. Again, bonds is one of our big errors that we see in applications. The biggest error in the bonds that we see is your names not matching, your entity names not matching, or not including your DBA. So there's a couple different ways or different types of bonds that you can submit. We have a surety bond, which is where you would contact a bond company that provides surety bonds, and you would pay like a monthly premium to cover the bond instead of paying the full bond amount up front. You can also submit a cash bond or a certificate of deposit. Your bond is going to be based on your estimated volume of work and the license classification for which you are applying for. If you are going to be using a bond company that is associated with our bond portal, you will be given the option to select your bond company from the drop-down menu, but you need to make sure that you have purchased your bond first, and your bond company will then upload your bond to the application for you. So going off of those top 5 errors that we see in applications, and bonds being one of the biggest errors, some key things that your bond needs to have included on it. That is going to be your entity name, and that should match the entity name that you are going to list on your application. If you are going to have a DBA included, then it should also be included on the bond as well. Your classification should be listed out. So you can see the example here. It says a CR7, which is carpentry. And another important key thing here is that the penal sums are also listed out. So you'll see here on the right-hand side, the column for the penal sums, it lists out the $4,250 in residential coverage and the $2,500 in commercial coverage. So if you have a dual license, you will need to list those out separately, one listed as residential and one commercial. The effective date, your effective date on your bond needs to be within 6 months. So we are looking at the effective date is within 6 months, that it has been notarized, and the signature of the attorney in fact is on there as well. And then we are looking for the official seal of your bond surety company to be marked on your bond. Now, we do not accept handwritten bonds. Your bond should come completed on our bond form. If you need to make updates to your bond, if the name is incorrect or the classification is incorrect and you've already submitted it, you can contact your bond company for a bond writer to make changes to your bond. All right. So disclosures. There are going to be additional disclosures that will be included in the application. So we are going to ask you to disclose if you were ever listed on a revoked or suspended license. We will ask if you were ever cited or convicted of any unlicensed contracting. And then we will ask you to disclose if you have any felony convictions or pending charges. Keep in mind, each of those disclosures, if you select yes, will require that you upload the appropriate disclosure forms and the required documentation. So if you have a felony disclosure, then you would need to make sure that you include all of the felony documents that would be required. And that information is listed on that felony disclosure form. These forms also can be found at the bottom of the applying for a license checklist. If you're unsure if maybe you would need to complete additional documentation under one of those. Some other documentation that you may be submitting with your application is a solar warranty. If your license is going to include solar, then you'll want to include a solar warranty. There is an example of a solar warranty on our website. Also, you can submit or request to cancel a prior license. You can also request to inactivate a prior license or disassociate the qualifying party from a prior license. All right, once you've gotten through, the very last step is going to be your fees. So each classification, depending on the classification, is going to have a different fee. You'll see that the residential licenses also include the recovery fund. And in the new license application, you will have that application fee as well, which you won't have when you submit your renewal. And once you are issued your license will be renewed every 2 years, and those renewals will come out to you.
Maggie?
Yes.
Can we stop for 1 second and discuss the background checks? We have a question, would a DUI misdemeanor prevent an individual from obtaining an application? And I thought it better to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So misdemeanors, we do not review misdemeanors. We are looking for, it will come through in the background check, and it will be reviewed. But if it was not a felony, then you don't need to provide further documentation on that. If you do have a felony, then you will want to complete the felony disclosure and you will want to provide us with the additional felony documents. Things such as, you know, your case records, any kind of treatments you've completed, anything like that. And the felony would then go for additional review. All right. So again, we are going back to this checklist. So we've gone through all of these steps here. We've touched on each of these items that you will need to go through and complete. Once you've completed all of these items, you will be ready to submit your license application itself. So the key thing we really wanted to point everybody to was that applying for a license checklist, because after you are done with the seminar today, you can go back to the checklist and then work through that checklist to get your completed application. There are a couple of different ways that you can submit your license application. So your fastest, most convenient, hopefully the easiest way for you to submit it is going to be through our online portal. The great thing about our online portal is once you've gone through each of those steps on that checklist, it has prepared you to submit a complete, ready to go application through our portal. If you are not a computer person and you don't want to submit it through our portal, you of course can come into our office or you can submit your application to us by mail. But I would strongly suggest that if you have access to a computer, you use our online portal to get you through that application. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you were on an Arizona license previously, the system will recognize that as the qualifying party and will automatically waive you from those necessary exams. So if you do decide, or when you decide to use our online portal, first thing you are going to need to do is you are going to visit our website. You will want to select the My Account section up at the top. And then from there, you will need to either create your account. If you've already created your account, then you can go ahead and log in. From our website, on that login page, there is a video that you can watch that will walk you through creating an account step by step. And then you're ready to log in.
All right, and we do have 4 questions or 3 questions.
Yeah, I see them. Let's see. Okay, estimated time frame for a submitted application review by your department. The ROC has 60 days to review and either approve or deny your application. We would prefer not to take 60 days. We take far less than that. But right now, our days to issue is anywhere from 10 to 15 days. However, if your application comes through to us and your application is complete and has no errors and can be reviewed and potentially approved within a day or two. It really just depends on how complete your application is when it comes through to us. If we get your application and your application is missing something, then we are going to issue a letter to you. We are going to call you and we are going to email and mail you the letter, and we are going to give you 30 days to then submit those missing items to us so that your application can be completed. From that time on, it's then up to you as far as how quickly you want to get us that information. Once the information is given to us, the reviewer will review it and then send it for that final approval. So it really just depends. I can't give you a for sure, yes, your license application could be reviewed and approved in 5 days. There's no way of me saying. How often should the SRE and trade test be taken? So your exam is good for 2 years from the date that you pass your exam. If you passed your exams and you never applied for a license, then you would only have that 2-year time frame. Now, if you again passed a exam and then you got on a license, and you were on an active license, you would need to have been on an active license within the last 5 years. And no, you do not have to retake the exams when you renew your license. When you renew your license, you pay your renewal fee, you provide us with your workers' compensation information if required. And then you would just need to make sure that you maintain an active bond that meets the minimum requirements and have a active QP on your license. So the recovery fund and the bond are a little bit different. The recovery fund, yes, you do pay that recovery fund fee at the time of the application. It's included in that fee price. And then you also will pay a fee towards it at the time of renewal. Your bond is a bond that both are required. Your bond you have to purchase from a bond company, or you can provide a cash bond or a CD, but both the recovery fund and the bond are required. So the question is, what is the link to start the application for out-of-state already licensed contractors with waiver information? So you still will have to go into our portal, and you'll need to log in or create a login, and you will still start the same new application. Everybody has to take and start the same application. Just some of the information that you input into it may be a little bit different. So once you've created your login on our portal, the big key thing is you will see this Rock Online Customer Portal. You're going to want to select that Add an Entity button on that top left-hand corner there. This is where you are going to add your entity to your account here. Once you have added your entity to your account, then you will be able to start your new application. The portal is going to check Arizona Corporation Commission. So if you are an LLC or a corporation, you will need to make sure that your entity is active and in good standing. In order to attach your appropriate and correct company to your account, you're going to need to click that blue Check AZCC filing button, and it's going to need to give out that active and in good standing status is what we're looking for. So you've logged in, you've added your entity to your account, and then from here you will be able to go in and start your new application. So a couple of big key things again, check Arizona Corporation Commission. That's going to be the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure that your entity is active and in good standing, and you want to make sure that all of your personnel who are listed on Arizona Corporation Commission or any other owners of 25% or more are all included in your application. The other big thing is background checks, making sure that you use that applying for a license checklist and go in and submit the background checks for all of the individuals who will be included in your application. Also making sure all of the IDs are valid and legible, meaning we can read them. If they're scanned in, making sure that the scan is visible, and making sure that they are valid, not expired. Also, your testing is completed. You'll need to make sure that you do submit and you have completed your testing before submitting your application. So you have completed your statutes and rules exam. If your trade is requiring a trade exam, you have completed and passed your trade exam. And then the biggest thing, the completed bond, making sure that that bond is completed, it is notarized, it has a bond seal, and that your entity name matches.
All right, thanks, Maggie. So lots of great information. I loved all the activity in the chat. Great questions. That is definitely why we hold these forums monthly, so that our applicants can get their questions answered, and we do whatever we can to make the new application process as seamless as possible. So just a couple of notes before we open it up for some additional Q&A. As a reminder, you will get a copy of the recorded presentation in your email. Also included in that email will be a survey. So we do ask that you take a couple of minutes to fill out that survey. We want to make sure that you found this seminar useful. If there's anything else that you think we may need to add, please go ahead and put those suggestions in there. We really appreciate that. The recording will be via a YouTube link, which will be really easy to access. We do have a YouTube channel, so you can also check that out. We'll also include copies of those applying for a license checklists. We cannot emphasize those enough. They are a great tool. They walk you right down the list of what you need to get done and submit in your application. And then we ask that as you set up your portal account and you get ready to submit your application, that you mark that you attended today's seminar. We have found that applicants who attend our seminars are able to submit that new application with less errors, and in turn are issued their license a little bit faster. Like Maggie said, we can't pinpoint an exact number of days that it'll take to review and approve your license. Everybody's situation is different, but we do strive to make that be as quick and seamless as possible. And then that last point there is to DocuSign your application, which means everybody named on the license needs to sign. DocuSign is a great tool. No longer do you have to print and mail or courier to folks on your application. DocuSign can take care of all of that for you. So again, thank you to you all for being here with us today. We do have a few more minutes allocated for today's seminar. We definitely want to answer any additional questions that you may have. So we'll go ahead and open it up for additional Q&A. You can, of course, continue